Welcome everyone, it's Gray Shirt Guy, rocking the gray shirt as always. What is everybody doing? It's July 2020. We're going to do a little studio update, show you some models that I've been working on, some models we've been painting. And then after that, we'll talk a little bit about some stuff that's going to happen here in the future with the channel. But yeah, let's kind of get into it. So I've been assembling and painting a lot of Warhammer models. That table behind me has been getting a lot of work done. And yeah, basically because of, what's going on with the world, don't really go outside a lot. I mean, aside from going to work, grocery, and coming home. So I've been trying to fill in that gap with trying to get some projects done. Unfortunately, I didn't make nearly as big a dent as I wanted to. And but yeah, we'll just show you what I've been working on because it has been a while since I've made a video. I got some new studio lights to help with the weird glare that I was getting with the lights behind me. These are just some ones, some tower stand ones I got off Amazon for under $100. They're pretty good. They're really bright, so hopefully everything looks crispy on the webcam. Although the webcam's 1080p and I'm blowing it up to 1440p for the video, but whatever, it's fine. It'll look all right on your on whatever you're looking at. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's close that one. All right, so I got a little window up here. So this is the Catachan Air Wing infantry that I assembled probably about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, probably around last fall time frame, maybe last summer. So we have on here. So I haven't assembled any of the other vehicles, unfortunately. I've been too busy doing other things. Well, I had assembled these 3 infantry squads, the 4 guys, the 4-man command squad, and the 3 characters. So what I painted was the 3 characters. So we'll go into what they look like. But these other guys will hopefully get painted over the next coming months. So move on to the next part. Hold on. Click on there. Okay, so I got everything working. I got it all working. All right. Apologies, this little preview window cuts a little bit. It's not too much of the model. So we have Sergeant Harker, who is an elite choice. Oh, I forgot to go back. Let me go back 1 second. So in this army, it's a small unit. I call it the Catachan, like 132nd Air Wing or something like that. It's mostly uses all Valkyries, 3 Sentinels with the flamethrower, chainsword, really keeping it flavorful with this, and then 3 Hellhounds. And then everything else is, I think there are 4 or 5 Valkyries. And then we have, I think they're all Valkyries. I didn't go for any vendettas on this one. 3 infantry squads with, I can't remember if it's Power Sword Bolter. I think it's Power Sword Bolter, or for each of the sergeants, a Flamer, and that's it. And then what I did is I mixed Catachan and Cadian kits together with a couple heads from where were they? Who were the heads from? The Scions for the vets in the back. And so it'll have those 3 infantry squads, and then it will have the Sly Marbo as an HQ, Colonel Strachan as an HQ, Harker as an elite choice, and Colonel Strachan is followed around by basically those guys in the back are all kind of together as like a death blob, pretty much. And we have 1 heavy flamer vet for in the command squad, and we have 3 regular flamer vets in the command squad. And so they have some of those little peak bandana hats. And so yeah, I think these guys very flavorful looking. I don't know how effective they are on the battlefield. I think the idea for me in my head was that they're I have so many different Imperial Guard units. I wanted one that was basically focused on the air, but I was like, well, Elysium shock troops, or I can do something funny, which is Catachans. And then I thought about Vietnam era, because Catachans are kind of inspired by Vietnam era plus action movies. So I was like, oh yeah, I have an air wing and like an airdrop system, and I don't know how effective they're gonna be on the battlefield, but I think that they look fun. So that's pretty much where I got there. So yeah, and the Hellhounds are ridiculous, but I haven't assembled those yet. We'll have to assemble those at some point. Have to do like a vehicle month or a vehicle year where all I do is just paint vehicles. But so we did the characters. We did these 3. We got Harker, Sly Marbo, and Strachan. Now these were all painted to what I consider to be a tabletop standard, or maybe a tabletop plus. For like, this is the way that when I'm painting models for myself, for my own armies, this is the kind of level of detail I'll go into painting them. Sometimes I put a little bit more effort into them, sometimes a little bit less, but mostly I want to paint them so they look decent at a distance, but I don't want to spend more than a day to 2 days per model. So I think each one of these was probably 4 or 5 hours per model. It was a simple base coat, which I still had to use a really small brush for some of the really high detail areas. A simple base coat, a wash, some highlights. Harker got a lot of highlights for his skin tone, trying to like make a slightly varied skin tone because I did 3 different skin tones in each of them. I went really pale on Sly. I went kind of try to go for like a darker, really tan, kind of Hispanic-ish tone. I was trying to not that I don't know Carl Strachan's like origins because he removed Death Planet, but I was trying to like experiment with different skin tones just so I could see if I could just do something that wasn't just Bugman's Glow. Harker is Bugman's Glow plus the normal Cadian flesh tone and some of the other what the normal like tanned flesh is. Sly is Reichland or not Reichland flesh. It's whatever that. Let's see if I can. It's Rakarth flesh. So he's really pale Rakarth flesh plus a I think it was Reichland flesh shade. Yeah, Reichland. So I used the shade on him to get that kind of like. So he's really pale compared to the other ones. I didn't bother with any of the eyes because I just don't have that kind of patience. But so these guys look pretty good. I really wish I would have assembled Sly separately from his base, painted him separately. The base was kind of hard to do very well. And then that base is just Sterling mud. It's Sterling mud with a bit of what is that? Mephiston Standard Gray for the outside. But the back, I went with so on the pants for some of them. I think for Harker I did a brown stripe. So those are just like Caliban green, a brown stripe, and then there's a black stripe on his. But the other ones, I couldn't really see the black stripe that much, so I just didn't do the black stripe on the other ones. Yeah, I went for the purple on the power sword because I hadn't tried purple yet, and I think purple turned out all right. I think blue, to me, blue, green, and red are the 3 easiest colors to do a power sword with. Red, to me, probably being one of the easiest. Blue being, well, I'd say blue is the easiest to do a power sword for me, for by hand, not with an airbrush. I mean, some of these power swords, some of the older normal power swords have like a better way you can tone up the color a little bit easier. But with these kind of these swords that, because I don't even know if they're meant to be power swords, but I wanted to paint it as if it was a power sword. So I can't. I have to look at his rules, but I can't remember if it was power sword or not. But I mean, he's basically a mini Terminator. It's pretty much like Harker is basically a heavy weapons, walking heavy weapon team, and Sly is just terrifying, and then Strachan is basically just a Terminator. So pretty good to go. So we got some more close-up shots of Strachan, and with a slightly different light palette. I was using a different filter on my phone, but as we can see, a little bit different details on him. I really like how the boots look, and the thing about real combat boots that aren't polished, they hardly reflect any, like black ones like this, they hardly reflect any light. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do a lot of gray light transitions. All I did was put a shade over them, and I don't even think I put black. I may have put black over top as like a mild, just to re-go back over it a little bit. But unless they're polished black, they don't have a reflection or a color. So I went with that. Also, I didn't really want to do a whole bunch of highlights anyways. I did highlight the gun because the barrel of the shotgun seemed a little too dark, which, once again, that shotgun, it's a magazine-fed shotgun that's also a pump shotgun, which those exist. Those are real. But normally, let's see if my mouse shows here. Normally, this tube is where the rounds go. And you pump the tube to cycle you pump the slide. I think it's called slide, yeah. You pump the slide, pump the action to feed another round into the chamber, which then you pull the trigger and fire it. But in this case, it is, now it could be a semi-automatic shotgun, and this isn't a pump at all. This is probably just grip. But it looks like a pump. So I'm not sure where they were going with here. I know for a fact that this loadout of shotgun exists in the real world, but it's not super common from what you normally see. What you normally see is a regular pump shotgun, like a 590 or an 870 or something, with or without the pistol grip. Generally, the ones I see don't have the pistol grip. But anyways, and I went with blue on the shotgun shells because there was so much red. There's so much red on this model for the bandana and everything. I went with blue. I don't know why. I just thought blue was cool. I mean, is there a front? Hold on, let me see. It should be there. You go. Yeah, I went with blue on the shotgun shells. And it's just because normally, so shotgun shells generally come in a couple of colors. They come in black, red. This is the casing color: black, red, blue. Sometimes green, and sometimes orange, and some of that. I mean, they come in a whole bunch of different colors. I've seen white ones too, but blue is weird because blue is generally like a birdshot type of shell, and I don't know why. I was like, you know what, blue. Let's put some blue on here because I had a little bit of blue on the wires, but I wanted some more blue, so I went with that. But that doesn't mean that it affects his power at all. So let's nope, nope. Okay, trying to scroll this mouse wheel the wrong way. Ah, right. Yeah. Okay. So then we're on to Harker. So the belt was the hardest thing to do. I went really on a brass for the rounds, for the bolter rounds. Um, his skin, the on this model, the two hardest things to do. One, he was painted with the bolter off of him. I didn't. I had the bolter separate, so he wasn't actually that hard to paint. Getting the skin tone to a color that I didn't hate wasn't after a while I just kind of gave up, but I think he turned out pretty good. I definitely like this belt because if you didn't know, back in the older days, prior to like the 50 cal or prior to the squad automatic weapon or other prior to newer belt fed ammunition, older belt fed ammunition didn't have metal links connecting the rounds. What they had was like cloth link connecting the rounds. And so I don't ever know whatever happened to the cloth link after they fired. I don't know if the cloth just came out the side like the metal links shoot out the side. But yeah, so belt fed now is metal linking, but for some reason it looked very cloth like to me when I was looking at this model. So I painted it a cloth color just because I thought it was kind of cool. Just some more poses. But I wasn't really sure what to do with this bandana bracelet, so I just painted them black. But I really like how Harker turned out. I do not. So this right here is from all this pithing and everything is from the primer. So it's way too hot here to really prime realistically this time of year. But I had to go for it. I had to use a spray can, and for the most part, the models survived without the patterning, and they look decent at a hand's arm length, but with a really close up photo, you can see what the primer is a combination of both of the primer and it being an older metal model and it being not super detailed on the this. But yeah, the primer definitely didn't help, so that's a shame. I definitely like this grenade. I don't know why, but I went with black on the crack grenades, and then I went with green on the frag grenade. At least that's what I'm calling them. But yeah, this head thing, I'm just not a fan of the head, but pretty good angle. I definitely like this. Didn't do a lot of highlighting on these though, aside from just I wanted to highlight basically just like areas that I thought were like the most eye opening, which is to me his skin because it's the most prominent feature on the model aside from the gun itself and the belt. I had to do a little highlighting on the belt. So we got Sly. Now we'll go with Sly Marbo here. I didn't paint his eyes because no. I actually from a distance I think Sly looks way more terrifying without painted eyes. I don't paint eyes on hardly any of my models except for like Space Marine lenses. So yeah, and it's a mix of you either have to get the eyes look really good or the eyes are going to look terrible. And of all the other things, I just don't want to paint eyes, so I just don't. Um, all the orc was simply just some log flesh, some Reichland. I think it was Reichland or one of the tans for the bone, um, and then a little bit of corn red in the lips, and then a wash. Some clear on the back. What is it? Rakarth's flesh was also for Sly. So when I went with Sly, I wanted him to be a little bit of a pale, because to me Sly is always in the shadows, and so I wanted Sly to be more pale. So I painted him more pale. And the base is just two different tones of green and not much else. But once again, if you see this little pithing and all this is just the primer being a giant pain in the ass. I've noticed that Gray or white primer is very susceptible to temperature. And you can get a brand new can, you can shake it all day long, if it's not 50 to 77 degrees or whatever, you're going to get really bad powdering. And I've tried both GW and non GW brands, and gray and white, I got a lot of powdering. But I've noticed that with black, whether you get like a flat Krylon black or a flat camo black, or even chaos black for GW, black tends to not powder as much as gray or white. So I might just have to stick with black primer in the future, even though for some models it's a pain in the ass to stick with black primer. But it doesn't powder as much in high low humidity, high temperature, which I live in the desert, so you got to run into that. But from a distance, he looks fine. But close up in these kind of pictures, he does have some like little powder marks from the primer. But aside from that, I do think Sly turned out pretty good. Now Sly is the one resin model. The other two are metal. So Sly is he felt a little different to paint because he wasn't as heavy. But and trying to get the brush in here without getting other things is kind of a pain. Yep. But I think I think Sly turned out pretty good. All right, so now moving on. So I got a whole unit of metal Valhallans not too long ago. I think it's like May, whenever they did the made to order, I rushed out and just like, yeah. So in this army, if you can see, so we'll go through it. We have 3 heavy weapon teams. So we have mortar, heavy bolter, and missile launcher. Then we have 30 conscripts. We have a special weapon team with grenade launchers, I think. We have 3 infantry units, and the 3 infantry units all have autocannon, chainsword bolter, and flamethrower. And then we have another heavy weapon. We have another special weapon team on the left. So over here, these guys are melter. So these special weapon teams with melter bombs. We got officer here. I think he's a junior officer. We got our HQ company commander. Let's see if I zoom in on this guy. Beep, 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 beep. It's a very green picture, so we're not going to zoom in. We'll zoom out really far. We'll zoom into about there. That's fine. Company commander, and yeah. So the conscripts. So I went with and there's a junior officer, I think, somewhere, and there's a couple officers in here that are actually sergeant models, but I made them junior officers, I think, whatever the elite choice was, to kind of lead the conscripts in battle. So I wonder how these guys. So this is the army, and we're going to show a squad that I painted with it. Hold on, I have to click off of that. All right, wait, no. Oh, you jerk! Hold on, I have to disk. Okay, there we go. And then I can go. There we go. All right, cool. So this is what the infantry model looks like. Yes, I think this looks freaking awesome. I don't know about you guys, but I think this looks awesome. So the coats are Mephiston red plus a brown wash, another Mephiston red, and then a mix of 50-50 Mephiston red and Wild Rider red. I believe it is Wild Rider red, to give them a mildly orange coat, but still keep the red prominent. All the gray is just Mechanica Standard Gray with a black wash, and then more Mechanica Standard Gray on top of it. I think maybe on the Sergeant I added a slightly lighter highlight of gray, but I think the gray and the red go really well together. Plus the browns is just Mournfang. Is it Mournfang brown? Yeah, just Mournfang brown, a wash, a Rhinox hide for some of the other leather bits, lead belcher for the silver bits, and then most of it. It's just the way I generally paint models for armies is a base coat, a wash, reapply the base like a full wash. Like I don't do a pin wash. I basically coat the whole area in a wash, but I'm really careful with making sure it doesn't pool. Like what I do is I like wash the whole model, and I try not to use too much wash, and then I really quickly move the wash to where I want it to. So you got to be really good at controlling the wash, and then I go back with a base coat of the same color, and I add a base coat, which looks like a highlight. And then I'll add sometimes for certain models, I'll add a second and third layer of highlight, but not for these. I went with the collars being I wanted away from the like up high to like be able to differentiate what the kits were from just a distance. And so all the heavy weapon teams will have blue collars. The infantry and the sergeants will have yellow, and the special weapons teams will have orange collars. The conscripts will have red collars. So the conscripts from a distance will just look like a blob of red and gray and some flesh tones. But yeah, so I really like how these guys turned out. They they're definitely one of my favorite. Now the heavy weapon, he was not fun to paint. I did not have fun painting the heavy weapon team, mostly just because of like how he was assembled. Because I assembled them all and then I painted him afterwards. He wasn't too hard to paint, but there are some areas where if you look really close, they didn't get as much attention as other areas. Um, I think he turned out pretty well in the end, especially for such a simple color scheme I went with. But these are some beautiful models. If you look at them, even holding them at a distance or looking close, I think they turned out really well, and I hope you guys enjoy them too. So moving on to our Raptor Space Marine Army. So with the Raptor Space Marine Army, I have a 10-man unit of, I think they're called Tartos or Tartaros or something. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but they are one of the two Horus Heresy Terminator armored kits. I think this is one of the more newer ones, as in like hierarchy of when the old kits came out. Because I think the other Terminator kits with the different shoulder blades and I think they are older, but I could be wrong. They may have been around the same time. Well, we got 10 of those with 2 Reaper autocannons, 2 grenade harnesses, 2 lightning claws, the sergeant with his power sword and plasma blaster, and then the rest are all just heavy bolter, the 20 heavy bolter, and the chain fist. I went with chain fist on every single one of them that I could take a chain fist. And then we have our librarian, which you can't see the librarian very well. Let me see if I zoom in on this. I don't want to zoom in too far and it looked really shitty. So the librarian and the chapter master are painted, so we'll show those next. But we have behind them, we have a jump troop squad with all lightning claws, except for the sergeant's got a relic blade, a plasma pistol, and melta bombs. We have 3 predators in the back, 2 autocannon heavy bolter, and 1 las cannon predator combo. And then we have 3 drop pods, and then we have 3 infantry squads that are Mark 4, I believe. Yeah, Mark 4. 3 Mark 4 infantry squads, and all of the Mark 4 infantry squads have. So one of those magnetized with all the options, the other ones aren't. So it is Kami Melta, Meltagun. No, the sergeant's got a Kami Melta and a Power Hammer. Or, yeah, Power Hammer? Is it Thunder Hammer? Not Power Hammer, Thunder Hammer. And then he's got a Thunder Hammer, Kami Melta, Melta Bomb. And then everyone else has a Heavy Bolter. There's a Heavy Bolter in the squad and a Melta Bomb squad. So the idea is that they drop in from the sky, and they're like, "This is my territory. Get the f out!" And they zone control that area. Is like my mind, in my mind. Yeah, so some of I tried to mix most of it's Mark IV kit, but some of it is Mark IV plus Primaris plus older kits, especially for this squad over here. There's a lot of, because the models are tactical Marines are equipped with a bolter and a bolt pistol. So I actually, on some of them, I have a bolter and a bolt pistol in their hands, or they have a bolt pistol in their hands and they have a bolter on their side. So I went really bolt pistol on one of the squads, but the rest of them are kind of like normal squads. One second. All right. So this is the chapter master, Elias Siladon, I believe is how you pronounce his name. It could be wrong, but this is my take on him. Basically, it's a chapter master, Space Marine Space Marine captain body from most of the kit. The sword is from Blood Angel Sanguinary Guards. I think that's where the sword came from. because it's not the chapter master sword. Also, the sword for the chapter master is normally in the left arm, and so I had to grab one that was right armed because I wanted to go because the chapter master for the Raptor Space Marine chapter he has a he sports a pretty sporty pistol or pretty sporty like rifle, and he's supposed to be all sneaky and stuff. So I went with a silenced bolt rifle, and I went with something a little fancier than a normal captain would have. So I stole a Primaris arm with the rifle, and I think it looks really awesome. Maybe the lens on the gun doesn't look that great, but the silencer bit is just a sniper rifle clipped off of a Space Marine scout that I had left over. So most of this guy is basically Space Marine chap or Captain Space Marine Captain Sprue plus some Blood Angel bits, some Primaris bits, and some. So it's probably 4 kits worth of bits in here. So I think it looks pretty good. And then we start seeing the cape. Now I went with green for the Raptors, but I added the white for the helmet and the shoulder pads. And then a lot of them are just black trim or like a yellow gold, but not gold. But I went for the HQ. I wanted to stand out because the rest of the army is going to be either all green with a little bit of gray and black, and then the sergeants will be white helmeted, or maybe one white shoulder pad, but mostly green. So I wanted him to be really flashy to stand out in a crowd. I mean, he already stands out, but I want him to stand out really hard. And so for the cape, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the cape, and I thought about making the cape white, like the inside black, like it is, but the outside white, to really have him pop. But I thought that might be too much white, and so I went with the Flectarn pattern. And so if you don't know what Flectarn is a pattern that the German army uses primarily. Um, and it is just kind of a collage of forest green, a light mustard green, a blackish gray, and an orangish brown. And so that's basically all that is. And I think it looks really good in person. The glare in here doesn't really help, but so that sword, I I believe that of all the power weapons I've done recently, I think that sword is my favorite. But when I was doing it, I hated it. I absolutely did not want to do the sword. I didn't like the way the sword turned out when I first left. But the more and more I've looked at the sword, and the more and more I've looked at other swords I've done, I really like the red, especially reflecting the green. Now I did blue on the eye, on the main helmet eye on his optic, and then I did orange on the other optics. And so I thought about transitioning the sword to be orange or blue, but I'm really happy I went with the red, which transitions up to yellow. But I think the sword looks really good, and this is pretty good fancy shot. Of course, you can see the underside of the blade here, a little not super clean with the yellow, but yellow's not that easy to be a color to like work with to get some of those brushes to get those brush strokes right. Moving on to the last model, we got our Librarian. Now the Librarian is one of my favorite kit bash projects I've done aside from the Captain. So the Captain was a kit bash that sort of kind of melded together. The Librarian, he's leaning forward. So generally this Librarian is the Librarian that has the staff. Yes, I did paint his face of a darker complexion of like an African American style complexion, a dark brown. And I painted his eyes glowing blue because he's a psyker, his librarian. I painted his beard pink um, because there was a character from one of the Marvel movies who I believe, or I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just mixing movies together or genres together. But you may have not been from a Marvel movie. There's a character that has a pink beard, but he's black. And so I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. I got to do it. I like all the other models in my army, in the Raptor army, are helmeted. He's the only model in the army that's not helmeted. And so I was like, you know what? Let's just give it a try. It's actually not that hard. It's Rhinox hide plus Agvector shape plus Rhinox hide plus what is that? What's that other color? Shit. Where did I put it? Oh, I left it. I had it. The sea of color I got going here. Now, plus a little bit of Gorthor brown. You can go up and up and up, but there's not a lot of area to work with. So I only use those two colors, so the two colors in the wash to achieve that. But he's a. I absolutely hated painting this model because he's so busy. So normally it comes with a staff. Now I wanted him, and normally the way you would arm him is like four staff plus whatever bolt weapon you want because he's got a holster. But I wanted him to be really, really flashy as my second HQ choice, and he looked really muted. Just the model, the original kit. So I snatched the biggest power axe I could out of the Sanguinary Guard Blood Angel kit, and then I noticed I had a plasma gun left over from the Sanguinary Guard kit, and so I'm like, this is just gonna be. He's just gonna be a beast. This guy is just gonna be like a massive powerhouse. He's got force axe plus power pit plus plasma pistol. He's leaning forward. He's looking imposing. I don't know. I think this librarian looks awesome. Um, and so it just looks like he's just like leaning in and he's like getting ready to like cast a spell, but he's getting ready to fire off that plasma pistol before he unleashes an attack. I don't know. I really like the way the pose. But paint scheme, the pink on the power weapon is something I don't like, but I don't want to repaint it because the paint's thick enough. It's not thick, but if I add more paint to it, it's going to look weird. It's going to start muting some of it, and I think the pink isn't terrible. Um, and I tried to keep the rest of the colors as kind of muted as possible. It's kind of hard to be super muted on a librarian, but I tried. So like we went gray on the cloak, and then a little bit of that yellow gold for the trim, uh, and white on the knee pad, and kind of just I tried to at some point I just sort of gave up on trying to really get super detailed and just went base coat wash, and I don't think I did a lot of other highlighting. But I still think overall, especially from a distance, he turned out pretty well. So that green shoulder pad, normally you put a transfer on there, but I don't want to deal with any transfers. But that green shoulder pad is kind of where most of the rest of the army is just going to have a green shoulder pad. But instead of having gold, it's going to be either green green or black, which probably green green. I didn't put any letters on the parchment. Maybe I want to do that at some point. But yeah, I think this is pretty much it. So it looks really chalky on the weapon, and I think that's mostly due to the primer once again not being that great. But also, I think my paint was a little thick when I started, but also the model was definitely not sanded properly. The model was not super smooth when I primed it. So it's unfortunate. I think there was some dust got trapped under there before I primed it, which is a problem. But and the primer didn't really cooperate. There's two layers of primer on this model. It's a gray that didn't work very well, and then a black over top of it. So kind of muted the details a little bit from what I would like. But I still think he turned out pretty well in the end. But yeah, so it's been 32 minutes of chatting. This is the channel update. These are all the models that I've been painting. Pretty happy about that. One last thing I want to cover, because I briefly mentioned it a little bit earlier in the video. So I'm going to be gone for a while. I can't really tell you exactly how long I'm going to be gone because I actually don't know. I'm going to be gone for a while. Big business trip came up. Have to pack up and bring a not my entire life. I got a couple people that are going to watch my house while I'm gone. So no worries there. All my models should be fine. They're going to hang out and just live in the house and watch all my stuff. So no problems there. But I won't be able to take my desktop with me. So my laptop, so the Legion Y 740 that I reviewed a couple days ago, or a couple one or two videos ago, that taking that laptop with me. I loaded up with a whole bunch of Steam games on it. I do have some editing software on there, so if I can get a hold of another screen, and I get a hold of some time because I'm going to be really busy there. If I can get a hold of everything all squared away, then I might be able to do some Commander gameplay like once a week, maybe. Other than that, my plan is really just to work, gym, eat, sleep, watch Netflix, play some video games. I loaded a whole bunch of games on the laptop. Now on the review, the laptop's really loud, so I got some headsets, got some headphones. So, and the laptops are really loud depending on what game you're playing. So I think like for Minecraft, it's not super loud. For some of the RPG Maker games, it's not loud. But for some of the other games, it can get loud. Midgo, it's quiet. So it's just really kind of like the intense, really actiony games, like what's that? Dark Souls and things like that. Those games can get can ramp up the fans a lot. So that's why I got the really good headphones, and yeah, so that is what is going on with that. Hopefully, we can do some videos over the next couple months, but if not, I'll just see you guys when I come back. And my plan is to actually remodel, not remodel, but all the desks and everything that I'm using right now. I'm looking to upgrade to a whole professional work desk situation. Not like an IKEA Lindemann desk, but these are actual like workbench professional level desks from like an office supply company. And so we're going to be working on getting some of those and getting these computers thrown into a server rack. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do when I come back. So that'll be fun. If you have any suggestions for commander decks I haven't played yet, put that down there too. And oh yeah, I'm gonna bring. I already packed up a whole bunch of Catachan models to paint to bring with me. So when I get to where I'm going, I'm gonna order all my paints and everything because I can order the paints. I don't want to bring the paints with me on the plane, but I can order all the paints. So I had all the models already pre-assembled and primed and everything. So I'll be able to between video games, sleeping, hopefully able to get a couple models done. Maybe not all 34 of them, but I'll be able to paint a bunch of them. So that is it. Long video, long studio update. Hopefully, I will see you guys and gals in the future. But other than that, have a good one. See you later.